This video provides an overview of integrated scenarios and the ability to address inaccurate planning models. In a separate video, we provided a detailed description of the maturity model shown on the right side of the screen. It provides a more detailed description of the capability gaps addressed by the integration-enabled process improvements shown on the left side of the screen. The title of this YouTube video is shown at the bottom of the screen. In this one, we'll focus on integrated scenarios. More specifically, we'll focus on the capabilities that comprise the gap between current state models and processes that manufacturers typically employ compared to more mature planning models that support enterprise-wide scenario planning processes in the most complex of manufacturing settings. During the video, we'll highlight these capability gaps in more detail, as summarized on the left side of the screen. We'll also identify specific incremental capabilities that address these gaps, ones that enable more mature forms of process integration. The problem described in this video is that complex manufacturers often lack the ability to connect revenue and demand plans with those for finance and operations. What's often missing is one model that can support a single end-to-end scenario planning process, one that enables capacity-constrained cash flow forecasts. The key feature of such forecasts is that it can simultaneously identify financial and operational constraints. Manufacturers that have immature planning processes often have a number of common characteristics, the most notable of which is that they have separate financial and operational planning systems that must be manually reconciled. What's more, spreadsheets are often a significant part of these processes. This fragmentation problem starts with revenue and demand planning. As complexity rises, neither financial nor sales and operations planning tools can fully support a fully integrated revenue and demand planning process, one that explicitly connects all their perspectives shown on the screen and maintains them at all times. These capability gaps are especially evident when conducting financially based scenario planning. When top-down revenue adjustments are made, it's especially difficult to maintain the connection between different views of revenue and demand, especially when they affect multiple entities, countries, and currencies. What's more, these financial scenarios are often impaired by immature planning models, which is the topic addressed on the slides that follow. The maturity model shown on the screen will help to depict these capability gaps. As you move from left to right, more mature models have greater financial and operational integration. Stages 1 and 2 depict different forms of standalone models and processes that are used by finance and operations, while the other stages represent more advanced models that are shared by finance and operations. The second stage represents the types of models that support simple forms of driver-based planning for financial planning processes. It's also the level of maturity supported by most strategic corporate performance management tools. From an operational perspective, this stage of maturity represents sales and operations planning processes that incorporate financial elements, but not the financial planning process itself. This stage also describes the level of integrated business planning that most manufacturers have achieved. It is also the level of maturity that is supported by most sales and operations planning tools. At the other end of the spectrum are prescriptive analytics. These are highly sophisticated models that can support some of the most sophisticated scenario planning. From a modeling perspective, these tools have been around for many years. What's new is that they are now embedded in applications that support both financial and operational planning processes. More advanced prescriptive analytics support dynamic and optimized investment portfolio evaluation across multiple legal entities. In the middle are financial and operational models and processes that share embedded manufacturing logic. This includes things like planning bills of materials and routings. This logic provides the means to support effective integration of sales and operations planning and rolling forecast processes. The point here is that there is no manual reconciliation because they are part of the same process. This logic also provides the means to integrate other financial planning approaches. The idea here is that they are all part of the same process. From a financial perspective, the absence of this logic is one of the primary reasons why profit, cash flow, and other forecasting processes are often difficult to execute and inaccurate. An example that illustrates this accuracy issue is explained in more detail in a separate YouTube video entitled Manufacturing Model Logic. Armed with this information, let's now consider the strategic sourcing scenario shown on the left side of the screen. The challenge is to quantify the impact of such an event on all the outcomes shown on the right side of the screen, globally across multiple legal entities. Now, strategic sourcing is a classic example of a complex manufacturing issue that is not effectively addressed by traditional financial or operational planning and performance management tools. Now consider the complexities of evaluating the impact of this sourcing event, along with three others now shown on the left side of the screen. Not just from an analytics perspective, but from a process one too, as these are the types of events that make rolling forecasts and sales and operations planning so difficult in complex companies. Traditional financial and operational planning processes and tools simply weren't made for this type of complexity, especially when considering the tax, cash, and foreign currency exposure of these scenarios. Supporting such complex scenarios requires the ability to connect all the planning inputs on the left with the outputs on the right, all within a single model and process. Processes having such characteristics provide the greatest levels of integration. When evaluating the effectiveness of scenario planning processes, the answers to the questions shown on the screen should always be affirmative. For example, is the math actually correct? And can the scenarios be executed quickly? When using immature models in complex settings, the answers to these questions is often no. And as a result, scenario planning becomes less effective. These types of factors are what make traditional, functionally based tools ill-suited to meet the needs of complex manufacturers. And this is when more mature scenario planning processes should be considered. Well, there are many factors that contribute to financial and operational planning integration. Two critical ones are the ones represented by the graphics on the screen, that being the ability to support capacity-constrained cash flows, an advanced form of modeling where business rules define cost and cash behavior when capacity constraints are met. Such models support direct cash flow forecasts by quantifying purchases and payments and sales and collections by vendor, customer, country, and currency. And this same logic also provides the means to forecast foreign currency exposure by country as scenarios are executed horizontally across legal entities. Such logic represents the most mature form of planning integration. This video provided a brief overview of integrated scenarios. Further details about capability differences can be found in the YouTube video shown at the bottom of the screen. Thank you for watching this video. Please use the contact information provided on the screen for further details about its contents or how we might be of assistance.